You see, I am a simple college student living alone in an apartment. I was very enthusiastic about the release of Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver here in the States. I have purposely locked myself out of all media and the internet aside from school purposes. That means no 4chan or Bulbapedia, etc. As I was busy with the school year and being poor at the time, I wasn't able to buy Soul Silver at its launch date. After my school year ended, I ordered Soul Silver on Amazon. However, it would take a week for it to arrive. I decided during that time I would replay my Crystal version on my Game Boy Color. However, I realized that long ago my mom threw it away because I told her the save went dead, and I was very upset about it then. She also threw away my Silver version, so all I have is my Game Boy Color. As such, I set out to GameStop and bought a used Silver version, as it's the only Pokemon game that they have left for the Game Boy Color. $10. Fairly cheap. I went home and started it up for a nostalgia trip. However, that's where things started getting bizarre, and most likely the reason why you're listening to this. The Game Freak logo started off as normal, but it just froze there. I thought the cart was just errored or something, so I turned it off and on. The same thing happened. I tried pressing A and start over and over, and all of the buttons. Eventually, the logo vanished, and there was just a black screen for about 5 seconds. Suddenly, rather than going to the usual menu screen, I was already in the game in a previous save file, which was odd as I was expecting all of these carts to have been wiped by the poor battery. Either way, I wasn't complaining, as I would have chosen the continue option to see what the previous guy did anyways. First off, I checked his trainer information. His name was just ... He didn't have much originality. I checked his profile, and apparently he had 999 hours put into the game, with all 16 badges, 999,999 Pokédollars, and all 251 Pokemon on the Pokédex. Seeing as he apparently had Mew and Celebi logged also, I'm guessing he either used a Game Genie, or was a really hardcore Pokemon player back then. I checked his Pokemon to see what a badass team he had. To my surprise, I saw 5 unknowns and a 6th Pokemon named Hurry. I'm thinking that this must be some cruel joke by the person who last played this game, but I decided to check the profiles of those Pokemon anyways. As expected, there were different letters of unknown, all level 5. I was a bit shaky with my unknown alphabet at the time, but I identified the word spelled out. It was leave. As for the 6th Pokemon, it turned out to be a Cyndaquil. Mind you, this was before there were individualized Pokemon icons. The Cyndaquil looked normal, but it was level 5 with only 1 HP left with only 2 attacks. Leer and Flash. I don't know why they named him Hurry, but at the time, I just disregarded it. The most eerie thing was that, despite my volume being at max, none of the Pokemon said their usual cries, just pure silence. Having enough of the team, I closed it. I was parked at what appeared to be a room inside Bellsprout Tower. However, for some reason, there were no NPCs around. Even more eerie was that the pillar in the middle didn't move at all, as if just leaning on its side. There was no music at all, and there was no exit or ladder, or at least I thought there wasn't. I walked around for a few minutes, but can't seem to find any way out. This is certainly not a room I've seen in the Bellsprout Tower before. I tried checking my items for an escape rope, but the bag was completely empty. I had a sudden chill as I recognized that melody I heard to be the theme you hear when you listen to the radio at the Elf Ruins where the Unknown are at. I immediately realized that it wasn't a loading transition, but rather I was in a dark room and would need flash. Before I took care of that, though, I immediately checked my Pokegear to change the radio to something more pleasant, but it turns out there was no radio card, or even a phone, nor time cards. There was only a map card in which Gold, from earlier, and I will call him Gold from now on, was just walking in the midst of black. I recall that Cyndaquil has Flash, so I turned off my Pokegear and made Cyndaquil use Flash. I didn't see any message saying, Hurry has used Flash, or anything like that. The room just became lit just like that, and I soon regretted it. The room was a chilling blood red with a linear gray path heading south. The ladder I used to go up/down was not there at all. I had no choice but to head south. The screen got darker every 20 steps I made, until I finally made it to the end, which appears to be a sign. I read the sign. It said, "Turn back now." Suddenly, I was asked to answer yes/no. I chose yes as I do not know what it was asking, and the screen went black again, making a ladder climb sound. The unknown radio music stopped, and in a few seconds was replaced by the not as creepy Pokeflute radio music. I was in another dark room, but I held my breath and used flash again. Suddenly, it said that Hurry has fainted, which was odd, since I recall that there was no status conditions like poison on him, and I clearly wasn't in battle. I checked my Pokemon quickly, and suddenly he's no longer in my party. In fact, after a bit of investigating, none of my Pokemon are there, but instead replaced with level 10 Unknown. I did the same thing as before and spelled out the Unknown. My team of Unknown then spelled he died. Either way, after that creepy change, the room was lit to reveal myself in a very small room that appears to be only 4 squares big. The walls of that room were gray bricks, as if I was inside something that was hollowed out. Outside that room appears to be a bunch of graves similar to the ones in Pokemon Red and Blue. I've walked around that small room and pressed A, but nothing happened. I've already concluded that this was clearly a hacked game, and some sadistic loser sold it to GameStop. However, my curiosity kept me going. I checked my trainer profile of ... again, only to find the sprite of Gold was missing his arms. He also appeared to be less smug, but seems rather sad and empty in a way that I do not know how to describe. For some reason, it now said that he has 24 badges, which was clearly impossible. After a few minutes of aimless wandering, my character suddenly spun and did the escape rope spinning animation. Instead of flying up, though, my character spun downward slowly, as if sinking. After that screen, the music stopped. After finally landing, the overworld sprite of Gold is colored differently now. Instead of the usual red color he dons, he appears completely white now, including his skin. It's as if he came straight from the colorless Game Boy games placed in a colored background of the Game Boy Color. I checked his profile, and now, he lost his legs and has what appears to be bloody tears from his eyes. It also says he now has 32 badges, which now starts to disturb me as the change of number seems to represent something important. I checked my Pokemon, which this time contains 5 Unknowns and a level 100 Celebi without a nickname. The Unknown are this time leveled 15 and spelled out Dying. I checked the Celebi's profile. It was a shiny Celebi, except there's only half the sprite. 1 leg, 1 arm, 1 eye. It only has 1 attack. Perish Song. The area I was in itself was the Sprout Tower with the immobile pillar as before, except everything's apparently red now. I walked north through what felt like forever. Eventually, I finally encountered some generic men and women NPC. They were all lined up to the side, just facing the long slantish pillar in the middle. They were also white, and nothing happens when I try to speak to them. I kept on going north until the pillar event finally appears chopped off, with a transparent red in that spot. I went up the red, and without even pressing A, I was suddenly engaged in a battle. The music starts again, which it sounds like the Unknown radio music again, but played backwards. Gold's battle back sprite matches the front one with the bloody eyes, white skin, and lack of arms, while a red sprite was the same as before in Gold Silver Crystal, except transparent. The text simply said, "Wants to battle," as if he has no name, and both of us only have 1 Pokemon each, which is weird as I swore I had 6 with the Unknowns. My shiny Celebi came out, conveniently with the half a sprite for the back sprite also. The shiny noise and animation was different, as the sounds it made sound like multiple screech attacks used consecutively. Red sent out a seemingly normal Pikachu, except he is level 255, and his sprite seemed sad. He had tears in his eyes. Rather than the usual fight, item, Pokemon run menu, I was only given the option to use the attacks. Since Celebi only has 1, I chose it. Naturally, since Pikachu was level 255, he went first. Pikachu used Curse, lowering his speed and increasing his other stats. I'm not even sure if Pikachu could use Curse. Celebi used Perish Song. In 3 turns, both Pokemon get KO'd. Not like I had a choice. At this point, it didn't even go back to the fight menu, as the battle just continued without me. There were no animations at all for some reason. Pikachu used Flail, which didn't do much damage despite his level and boost, as his health was maxed. Celebi used Perish Song. Nothing happens as it was already used. Pikachu used Frustration, which done a ton of damage, knocking Celebi down to less than 10 HP. Celebi used Pain Split, which surprised me, as Celebi didn't even have that attack in the first place. Now Pikachu and Celebi have about 150 HP. Pikachu used Mean Look. Not like that did anything. As expected, due to the effects of Perish Song, my Celebi fainted. Except, in the text, it said, "Celebi has died." And instead of the ordinary drop off the screen animation, the Celebi back sprite just vanished. For some reason, the Pikachu was still up, even with Perish Song, and it didn't count as my loss. Pikachu used one more different attack beyond the 5 attack limit. Pikachu used Destiny Bond. Afterwards, it said, Pikachu has died, with a slow fade-out animation. Apparently, I was the winner, as transparent red sprite showed up and said, ... At that point, I just freaked out, as the transparent red sight was suddenly beheaded, leaving nothing but his transparent body. The battle then ended at that point and faded out along with the music. I'm back in the overworld with another change to the gold sprite. He's now as transparent as Red's overworld sprite. I quickly checked Gold's profile, where this time the only thing remains of him is his head, with a transparent skin. The head was zoomed in a bit, showing a black void in his eyes. It now stated that he now has 40 badges. I then backed out and checked my Pokemon. They were all level 20 shiny unknown, which then spelled out, no more. I was at what I now know was next to the end. There was apparently no music playing, but for some reason I still felt like there was something that could be heard. I was back in my room in New Barktown. Maybe finally I get to play this game properly, but who am I kidding? I knew that sadistic loser must have done something. I walked around my room to interact with things, as I'm a bit afraid to go down the stairs to see what was awaiting down there. Note I said walked, as while the background was moving, Gold was not moving his transparent limbs at all while doing so, just floating like those ghosts you see in Diamond and Pearl. As expected, the radio, computer, and TV did not work, so I had no choice but to go down the stairs. I ended up in the same lower-level room in my house. Everything appears normal, except Mom isn't home. After failing to interact with everything in this room, I decided to go outside. To my surprise, that door leading outside at the south didn't work, and instead I just walked straight through it to avoid. I continued moving south to see what the hell was going on. My house vanishes as I head south into the void. It was creepy, as when I entered the void, the outline on Gold's transparent sprite turned white to contrast with the pitch black. Eventually, I reached a white area, and Gold's sprite turned transparent and black again. I continued south without thinking of stopping at all. After a long trek south, I finally encountered something. It was Gold's regular sprite. I talked to it. He said, "Goodbye forever," and vanished. As that happened, it said, question mark, question mark, question mark, use nightmare, which at that point, I would not deny that being possible. Gold did another escape rope animation, spinning slowly downwards like before. I'm now back into that small, hollowed-out room surrounded by graves earlier. Or at least I say I was back there, as there's no sprite anymore. I tried to walk around, but nothing moved, not even the wall bumping noise. I checked my trainer profile, with absolutely no gold sprite left. It said I have 0 badges, and all the pictures of the Johto gym leaders at the bottom were replaced with skulls. I checked my Pokemon, which were all level 25 unknown. As expected, it spelled out a phrase that I dared to read. I'm dead. As soon as I went back to the overworld, the room that I was supposedly in was covered with the same blocks as the walls. I then figured out what exactly that room was when the final text said, R.I.P.